Well, hello, how are you doing today? I'm back in the kitchen because I want to do a recipe in the kitchen for a change. I've done the past few videos out in my shipping container and I want to come back into the kitchen because some of you like the kitchen environment. So I'm here. My boy would have been joining us to make this recipe. However, he has decided to take a nap. What can I do about that? He's going to have a sleep and that's brilliant. But he should be joining us for some of the recipe. I'm really getting into the wines I can make using what I can find in the local environment. I've made nettle wine, I've made dandelion wine, I made seaweed wine in the past, that was awesome. But now, today, we are making daisy wine. I thought if you can make wine from dandelions, why can't you make wine from daisies? And it turns out you can. There are some really old recipes out there about how to make daisy wine. Not that comprehensive, not that many of them, but it used to be a thing. So I thought, why not revive some of these older recipes? I have never tried daisy wine before, so this is a complete experiment for me as well. I've taken a few different recipes that I found online and in some old winemaking books and recipe books and merged them all together into one. And I think this recipe is going to be fantastic. So first up, you need to go and pick yourself some daisies. It's best to do on a bright sunny day when the morning dew has evaporated off the petals of the daisies and when they're lovely and open and full. And you need to pick about 1 pint's worth, because apparently the daisy is very potent in flavour and aroma. And then when you're back in the kitchen with your pint's worth of daisy, you want to remove all of the stalks so you're left with only the daisy head. The bitter green does not matter, apparently so, unlike the dandelion where you want to remove all of the green stuff and only left with the yellow petals. The daisy, they say the green base is perfectly acceptable. So remove all the stems. Whilst you're removing your stalks from your daisy heads, you want your primary fermentation bucket to be soaking and sterilising and getting all clean. So mine's in the bath at the moment, filled up with sterilisation solution. With your daisies all de-headed and the stems removed, it's time to start preparing your syrup sugar solution. Because the daisies don't contain that much sugar or proteins that they can break down into sugars, you want to add a fair amount of sugar to bring it up to the alcohol content that you need. The daisies won't provide that sugar, so you need to add the sugar yourself. So I'm going to be adding 1.3 kilograms of sugar. So first things first, pour that sugar, that 1.3 kilos, into your fermentation bucket and pour over boiling water. And give the sugar a really good mix. Get it all dissolved in. You don't want to have granules of sugar in your mix. You want it all to be permeated in and dissolved in. I'm adding about 2.5 litres of boiling water and then I'm going to top it up to just over 4 litres with cold water. That way it's not going to be too boiling when you come to put your daisies in. The last thing you want to do is boil your daisies. They won't really give off much flavour with that heat. With your sugar solution being tepid, warm, not boiling by miles, you want to throw in your daisies. They do remind me of gorse flowers, the aroma they give off. Sweet, coconutty, divine. So chuck them in. And there's just a few extra things we need to add to the recipe now. So grab yourself your pestle and mortar, because this recipe calls for some cloves to be added. Surprisingly, cloves are a great source of tannins, especially in the form of gallo tannins, which can really boost your wine. You don't need too many cloves because the flavour may overpower the daisies. So I am adding half a dozen, 6. The cloves, these little things by here, are very rich in gallo tannins, which really boost a wine's body and complexity. It also adds a slight foxy aroma to the wine. So grab your cloves and grind away. Break them all down to a very fine powder. If you're using ground cloves, probably about half a teaspoon will do you. If you don't have any cloves, or you'd rather not use them if you don't like the flavour, you can opt to add a tea bag to the mix, and that will add the tannins as well. Or you can buy a pot of tannins from a homebrew shop or online. And then add your cloves to the mix. And then add your ground cloves to the mix. With all that added into your fermentation bucket, the next thing to add is the juice of 1 lemon, or a squirt from Squirty bottled if you don't have access to fresh lemons very often. So, squirt away. And now we need to add some yeast to the bucket. I'm using a mead yeast for this wine. I like mead yeasts with a lot of... I like using mead yeasts with... I like using mead yeasts with floral wines. There's something about them that brings out a lot of their... There's something about it that brings out a lot of the floral notes in the bouquet. So to sprinkle in your yeast into your mix. And now, blimmin' cockerel, it's been crowing all afternoon. And now you want to put a lid onto your bucket with an airlock and set it aside for 2 days in a lovely warm place. Let it start fermenting. You want to stir it daily or twice a day. Get the oxygen in, get it all working, and the yeast doing really, really well. And we will be back with you in 2 days' time to show you the next few steps of this daisy wine. Hello, and how are you? 2 days have passed, and the daisy wine is looking fantastic in the fermentation bucket. It's been bubbling away really, really well, and now is the time to strain off all of those daisies from the liquid. Just the same method as removing the dandelion heads from a dandelion wine. You need a colander and a drinker's bottle with a pair of tights inside of it. And then just basically strain it through. So, colander first. Next step is to put your airlock on top of the demijohn and tuck it away in a lovely warm place until it clears. It's a concoction of a lot of really old recipes, all added together and the best bits taken out. And I really can't wait to do a taste test on this wine. I hope you all have a lot of fun now, and I'll see you all really soon. Ta-ra!